Hi, welcome to today's segment of Our Ventura TV. My name is George Alger. Today we're going to be talking about transitions as they relate to downsizing. And our guest expert today is Cyndi Seidler, the organizing lady. Welcome, Cyndi.
Hi, George.
So what does this mean, downsizing in relation to transitions, or transitions in relation to downsizing?
You know, a lot of people know what downsizing is, but a lot of people don't. So in terms of the word itself, it's just lessening the amount of things that you have. So it's moving down into the size of your belongings.
Okay, so getting rid of stuff. Now, downsizing, at least when I look at it, you know, it often includes a part of life where, you know, you may be going through loss, all right? Is that actually representative of the whole concept?
In some ways, yes, because some people have to do that because there is a loss in the family and they have to go through their relatives' things, and you know, that is a form of downsizing their belongings, not their own. But in, you know, people going into assisted living, people having to move from a 3,000 square foot home to a 1,500 square foot home, you know, these are cases I run into all the time in my line of work that involves having to get rid of things. And so, yeah, it's interesting, George, because one of my relatives, I won't say who, but one of my relatives was going through a move, and she has gone through several moves, and each time she's had to downsize, each time she's had to get rid of stuff, and each time it's been so traumatic, it's been so emotional for her to go through having to get rid of things that she's had for so many years. And it's like, get new stuff. Yeah, get a new sofa. You don't need that sofa. You don't need that. You don't need that picture you've had for 10 years. Look at something new. Anyway, it doesn't have to be emotional, but it is for some people that don't have their frame of mind in the right place about lessening their belongings. And I'm not saying become a minimalist. I'm saying just lessen it, you know. Have things that make you happy, that make you smile, that you treasure, not things that are just there that you've had.
So would you say that the idea of downsizing, regardless of the impetus, is more psychological?
It's usually always that.
Okay.
And it's interesting, another relative, they're looking at what they can give their family. Do I want to give that bronze to this person? And a lot of people, if a family member has gone, I don't want to elaborate on that particular subject, but if they have gone, then, and they haven't allocated things like, here, George, I'd like you to have this statue. Enjoy it, you know? Instead of waiting until they're gone and the family has to go through this emotional thing of, oh, what do I, you know, who gets this and what do I do with it? And I want it just because it was my mom's, when they don't really love it, you know? They don't really love it, but it was their mom's, you know?
So there's something to be said for any kind of emotional or even nostalgic attachment, but I think a critical point you're saying here is that, at least in terms of a death transition, it's a benefit if the person who might be able to foresee that they're going to be dying can give away much of their stuff to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, they're elderly. They're either going to, you know, they're going to go sometime in the near future, or they're going to go into assisted living and having to downsize that way. They can't take everything with them. And do you want your family to go through your stuff?
Yeah. I guess that's
just saying, you know, I've done a lot of estate sales, and I've had to go through stuff, and because the family doesn't want to deal with it. So do it now. You know, and it could be a young person. You don't have to think of, I'm going to die someday. You know, it doesn't have to be that morbid. Just lessen the amount of belongings to things that you really love. And, you know, just take pictures of things that you cherish and give it to somebody. You know, there was a time when I had, like, I don't know, 15 blankets and all. I mean, my linen closet was stuffed. And I'm like, why do I have all these? I have 2 beds. why do I have all this? And when a disaster came, I had all of it to donate, and it felt so good to just go, here's someone who needs it. Here's people who could really benefit from my excess, my overflow.
So one of the ways, an additional way then to downsize stuff in advance of needing to, is just to donate it at any need that you see as pertinent.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've talked about anticipating an elderly person's death and giving away stuff early. We've talked about donating stuff. And how about someone who may be younger? They're not really looking at the idea of, of passing away yet, but maybe there's a job change and they have to move to a smaller house. Any advice you might give to someone downsizing that way?
I will give the advice that I gave my relative recently who did have to downsize again. And this time it was a traumatic thing. And I said to her, don't fret over what you're getting rid of. Enjoy the newness, the freshness of what you'll end up with, or what you can get instead of that, that you've had for years. Maybe you don't need this dining room table for 10 years. Get a new one. Okay, it's a dining room table, and I love it, and I've had it for all these years, and oh my gosh, it was my grandparents' dining room table. Get over it, just it's a frame of mind, George. You just have to get yourself in a mindset that new can be good, know?
Now, what if you are amenable to the idea of giving your stuff away in the future, and just simply in terms of trying to be efficient, but some of the stuff that you're giving away, let's say to children or relatives, is valuable enough, and maybe you have several children who want it. How do you sort of rectify the fact that maybe 3 people want the same thing?
Well, that's another subject. I mean, that's not something I deal with, because I just try to talk them into, why do you have it? Give it to one of your kids, and maybe get the kids to come to an agreement. I'll have it for a couple years. You have. I don't know. I mean, that's not my forte, is to say who gets what. It's really a family member thing. I know that my dad, for example, has these gorgeous bronze sculptures, and I know me and my sister are going to fight over it. But maybe she'll take a couple and I'll take I mean, you just have to, what's the word, compromise, come to I don't know, some sort of compromise, right? You take this and I'll take that kind of thing. Or share it, have it a couple of years and let it go into their other home for a year, and then, I don't know.
That's a good solution. Okay, so what are the kinds of transitions might we want to address here?
Well, in terms of the whole downsizing things, you really want to look at all your stuff and figure out, if I had to move next month, would I want to take all of this with me? All these tchotchkes and all these, that's doodads, I don't know another term.
Knickknacks.
Knickknacks, that's the word. Thank you, George. It was knickknacks. Do you really need to be surrounded with so many things? And papers. People keep papers forever. Why? I mean, you only need to keep your tax papers for 7 to 10 years, depending on what it is. And so why are there boxes? It just takes up space. It just takes up space. And if you could clear your room and make it look like, I don't know, spacious, without so much cluttery stuff.
Yeah. Well, this brings up an interesting point, too, because not only are you talking about downsizing in terms of trying to accommodate a smaller space, but perhaps even opening up your own life.
Boy, that's a beautiful way to say it, George. Opening up your own life. I like that. I'm going to use that, by the way.
Okay.
But yeah, it does. It does. And it's a mindset. You have to get, the minute my relative got in the mindset of letting go, she moved into her new apartment and she's been happy. And she says, I didn't go through the trauma. I actually got rid of stuff and was feeling good about it. I'm like, you know, she felt good about it. And so that made me feel good that that little bit of advice helped her emotionally in getting rid of more stuff. Because her frame of mind was, my life is shrinking. No, your life isn't shrinking, sweetie. It's not shrinking, you know? It's streamlining. As the older we get, do we need so many things? Do we need all this stuff? Yeah, maybe if we have a 5,000 square foot home and we're rich and we want all of our tchotchkes on display shelves, okay, you know, so be it. But, you know, the majority of us, we're not there. And so we don't need all of our tchotchkes, you know.
Got it. Okay, we're going to be running out of time shortly here, but I'm wondering if you have any advice for someone who may actually be thinking, yeah, I need to downsize, I need to get rid of some stuff. In other words, they're willing to do it, all right, but they're overwhelmed by it. Is there some kind of prioritization hierarchy you might suggest in terms of, start here?
It is pretty much a start here. You have to pick one area. Garages are nightmares for most people if they've just shoved everything in there. It's the final resting place before burial. I mean, that's what I call a garage. So anything that's ended up in there you haven't seen or touched in years. So that could pretty much go. That's the easiest place. Deal with the hardest area first and just pick one box. If you're in a closet, pick one closet. If you're in a linen closet, go, I'm going to clear out my linen closet and just start going through that stuff, you know, and chuck your 10, 15, 20 blankets when you only have 2 or 3 beds. Just saying. You don't need that many.
Then I guess I could extrapolate from that, since it doesn't seem to matter where you start, although garage might be an obvious first place, but regardless of where you start, once you've started, picking in the next is similar? Just pick another place?
Yes, yes. Even, I'm telling my relative, when you unpack, pick one thing, because she's overwhelmed. She showed me video of all of this stuff, you know, in her living room and everywhere. She's overwhelmed. She can't even unpack one box. I said, no, just pick one box, get it unpacked. Well, once she picked one, she couldn't stop. She was just like, oh, I did 3 or 4 boxes. It just works that way, you know, you just kind of have to dive in. Pick one thing. If it's one area, one closet, a section of the garage, that's your starting point. And then you can devote a little bit each time, you know, each day or certain days of the week, you know, you could put it on your calendar if you have to, you know, this is going to be a dekludge day or something like that.
Good suggestion. All right, well, we're just about out of time here. Is there a website that viewers can go to for more information? And do you have a summating message for the viewers?
Don't fret over downsizing and getting rid of stuff, because it's going to end up feeling good. It really will. It's going to cleanse your soul, so to speak. And yes, they could go to organizinglady.com and they'll find me.
Great. Thank you very much, Cyndi.
You're welcome.
This is George Alger signing off for this segment of Our Ventura TV. Until we meet again.